Yeah, hello. I know things are looking a bit different right now. I decided that for Halloween I want to try something new and go all out for the holiday. Again, thanks to Quin for providing the art I use for my channel. He was the one who designed my sprites and my background art. So for Halloween, I want to make a video on a horror movie that really impressed me when I watched it for the first time. And yeah, it was a movie. For those who know, that's a rare occurrence. I present to you Netflix's The House, described as a stop-motion anime anthology special by multiple collaborating directors and screenplay writers. The official synopsis reads as following: across different eras, a poor family, a anxious developer, and a fed-up landlady became tied to the same mysterious house in this dark animated comedy. Released on January 14, 2001, I originally watched the movie around October 2 years ago. Watching the film for the first time were one of my main reasons I wanted to start a YouTube channel. Because after watching The House, I simply had no one to talk to about it. Now with things definitely changing, with me reaching a bigger audience, with more eyes on my channel, with more potential for those who haven't even discovered this film. Frankly, I kind of figured at least some of my audience would be somewhat vaguely familiar with The House, since it was pretty well received upon its release, with well-known YouTubers already making their own reviews on it. But if you haven't, that's fine. I gladly go over the movie's content while giving my thoughts on the visuals, themes, and symbolisms. Here we go. And Heard Within, A Lie is Spun is the first out of the 3 anthology stories the film presents, and is by far my favorite part of the movie. Not to downplay or discredit the other stories, but in Heard Within, A Lie is Spun does a great job pulling the viewer in and setting up eerie tones that carries through the rest of the film. It's also easily the scariest and most uncomfortable story out of the 3. Now, not to overhype it, it's not something you need to hide your kids from, but it does an amazing job of using little to create huge emotional reactions from the audience. A Heard Within, A Lie is Spun introduced us to a poor family with our main protagonist Mabel, a 8-year-old little girl, her baby sister Isabel, her father Raymond, and her mother Penny. The story starts off with Mabel playing with her dollhouse, one that looked pretty recognizable by the end of this video, especially to those who already seen the film, using dolls that we'll see soon allure of something later on. The main thing to point out within this scene is how she used the dolls as a stand-in for herself and her aunt, with this moment serve as a subtle foreshadowing for the following events. As Mabel gets caught by her mother, we see Raymond the father starting up a fireplace, getting ready for incoming guests. As he holds his daughter close, Mabel asks about their extended family, wondering if they're nice, to which Raymond simply replies, no. When the extended family arrives, the only person of real significance is their great aunt Eleanor, among their 3 other relatives. Right away, we can already tell how rude and abrasive Aunt Eleanor is. She shows up to visit the newborn Isabel and makes unpleasant comments about her not being a boy. She even makes disrespectful remarks towards Mabel, casually calling her small for an 8-year-old child. We can only assume based on the time period and the way they are dressed and arrived that they're on the wealthier side of the social ladder. They make snide comments about how unpleasant and small Raymond's family home is. This assumption is confirmed when Aunt Eleanor goes on a rant about how disappointed she is in Raymond, calling him a failure like his father, and saying he never lived up to his potential despite being properly educated and being given many opportunities. So far, we can already see how Raymond was given the expectations to surpass his father, but instead he carries the burden of being the family's black sheep. For reasons not directly explained, he ended up in a less than ideal situation, largely because of the constant pressure his family put on him, calling him no better than his father, who gambled with all his riches in a drunken bender. Aunt Eleanor claims that she sees Raymond's father in him, calling it a weakness that is holding him back. We see how deeply affected Raymond is for the rest of the film, with the tone shifting dramatically. Suspenseful music starts playing, the color palette darkens, and the lighting becomes more rigid and shadowy. Raymond's attitude appears to change from calm and caring to angry and more expressive as he storms out, drinking in a fit of rage and self-pity, convincing himself that every horrible thing said about him is true. Within moments, Raymond spots an oddly placed carriage in the middle of the woods belonging to a man known as Mr. Van Schurenbeck, who goes on to serve as the antagonist of the first act. As an antagonist, Mr. Van is actually quite unique. Aside from this instance, he never has a direct encounter with Raymond or the rest of the family ever again. Instead, he functions as a mysterious figure with a terrifying presence that clearly haunts the audience. His motives are largely unknown, his history is barely addressed, and his characterization is minimal. Not to say he's poorly written, but he simply doesn't feel human. He acts as a natural disaster within the main story, more of an entity than an actual human being. After Raymond speaks with Mr. Van, we we see him return to the house ecstatic with his voice rougher and more aggressive. He claims that all their problems have been solved as he passed out eating a meal his wife prepared. The following day, we meet Thomas, an associate of Mr. Van, who comes to discuss the term of their agreement between Raymond and Mr. Van. Thomas explained how Mr. Van is a world-renowned architect who's being generous, offered to build a fully paid-for construction of a brand new house for Raymond's family. This would finally allow Raymond to live the life he always wanted, giving him the facade of being one of the elites, just like the rest of his family. As both parents signed off the construction of the house, which will serve as a stable backdrop for the plots of the following stories, we also got a bit more information about Mr. Van on how he was an incredibly wealthy designer who only values creative freedoms within his displays, with a pivotal detail that he was a friend of Raymond's father. That's something I want to put a pin on as we circle back to that later on in this video. As the contract negotiation reaches an end, we hear this dreadful music that intensifies the weight of the scene, with Thomas appearing notably more nervous about the whole deal. Once the construction of the house is finished, the family arrives, with the parents marveling at the wonders of the new home. Mabel, however, noticed Thomas trembling in fear behind the corner. As Thomas welcomes the family into the new home, he makes it clear that their previous possessions have no place here. Every piece of furniture and decorations has been hand-picked and designed by Mr. Van himself. He assures them that their old belongings will be safely stored away. After finishing their tour of the house, we see the family seated at the dinner table eating a meal prepared by their servants. The dining room lights begin to flicker and shift, creating a hypnotic trance that quickly captures the parents' attention, leaving them oblivious to their children's needs. So Mabel takes upon herself to bring Isabel to their new room, where she looks out the window at their abandoned old home. With Mabel and Isabel presumably asleep, we then see Penny and Raymond fall into a strange hypnotic trance as Penny is sewing new curtains while Raymond tends to the fireplace. These might sound like mundane activities, but the film's uses of sound design and atmosphere makes them feel deeply unsettling as if something terrible is about to happen. We briefly see Mr. Van standing in a corner of the same room, seemingly unnoticed by the parents. It's unclear whether this is an illusion or he's actually there, but whatever is happening seems to be under his control. With a loud thumping, the siblings wake up and look out the windows to see a newly constructed room being worked on by the crew, replacing their outside view of their abandoned house. Mabel quickly leaves and finds Mr. Thomas at the bottom of a torn down staircase, panicking, whispering, it's someone, it's just not me. Mabel calls out his name and assures her that the stairs are going under some reconstructions, pointing them into the direction they should be heading. The film continues to provide dark and eerie scenes of the construction workers meticulously altering the structures of the house. As Mabel manages to find her mother, she tries to tell her about the strange reconstructions happening around them, but Penny for some reason ignores her concerns and instead asks for her to look for her father. As Mabel explores the house further, she finally finds Raymond laughing as he watches their own home being demolished. We then cut to another dinner scene where Mr. Thomas arrived to deliver a gift to the parents on behalf of Mr. Van. The gift being clothes designed to resemble the furniture in their home. Raymond and Penny are amazed and ordered to wear clothes made by such a highly regarded designer, with Thomas explaining that Mr. Van created these outfits to complement his architectural vision, an oddly suspicious motive. Mabel walks in, clearly unhappy with the clothes her parents are wearing, calling them foolish. This angers her parents, who demands an apology. The moment ends with Mabel walking away, saying how much she hates the house. Mabel starts taking care of her younger sister Isabel, who crawls away and leads her down to a downward staircase. Isabel slips and falls, but instead of going on further, the two eventually entering what appears to be their once abandoned house. There, Mabel picks up a book and begins to read a story to Isabel, a story about a princess who wakes up in a kingdom where everyone but her is asleep, wondering if she's the one dreaming while everyone else is awake. I think this short story symbolizes the current state of the house, as the oldest of the two siblings, the stand-in princess, represents Mabel, aware of the conditions of her kingdom, or in the case her family, who has fallen into sort of a hypnotic trance brought on by the house itself, with everyone but her acting differently. It's important to remember that ever since they moved into the house, the parents have gradually started acting stranger, their behavior is becoming more erratic and unhinged. The constant presence of Mr. Van, the panic of Thomas, and the non-stop construction work only adds to the dreadful atmosphere surrounding them. To top it all off, we see Isabel becoming more verbal, even speaking for the first time only after entering the house. We see Mabel carrying her sister up the stairs as Thomas trembles, weeping in the corner, while Mr. Van suddenly appears behind them as Thomas lets out a terrifying scream. With Mr. Thomas appearing once again, talking with the parents and bringing Raymond his old chair from their previous home, seemingly tempting him to find use for it. Relieved to finally start the fireplace, Raymond used the chair as firewood. Mr. Thomas then suggests he should use more of his old furniture, throw it down the basement. Though the way he says it makes it seem as if Raymond is the one in control, when in reality, he's been subtly manipulated into continuing. We cut to Mabel and Isabel trapped within the attic, calling out for her father, who ignores them as he lugs their old belonging down the hallway. The sisters try to find a way to escape, but instead come across Mr. Thomas sulking in a room crying as he reveals that Mr. Van keeps changing the structure of the house, acting more erratic and breaking down. Through tears, he drops the shocking truth that he's merely an actor being given scripts and instructed by Mr. Van himself. Trapped in the attic, the two sisters eventually fall asleep, unaware of what's unfolding below. Mr. Van appears one last time, standing behind the parents, laughing as the camera slowly pans out, revealing them being transformed into pieces of household furniture. Mabel and her sister awaken and wander into a room, staring in horror at the destroyed remains of their parents, both pleading that their children should escape, as it's too late for them as they fall victim to the house's curse. In a desperate attempt to save them, Penny pulls down a curtain as flames spread throughout the house, caused by the fire from the fireplace that their dad started. As Mabel and Isabel manage to escape the burning house, both parents, Raymond and Penny, fall victims of the house fire. Mabel and Isabel are last seen walking through the snow, glancing back at the burning home that once trapped them. As the sun rises on the horizon, the screen fades, transitioning into the next story. And Heard Within, Elias Spun is a story about how one can be driven to justify their own insecurities by masking them with a lie that slowly takes over. Raymond, consumed by his self-doubt and greed, ends up putting his own family in danger, believing that his actions are in their best interest, when in reality, they serve only to feed his ego. It's clear that high hopes and expectations were placed on him, and his extended family truly believed he could succeed, to not fail like his father but do better. The pressure he carried onto his shoulders gradually dragged him down, reaching its heaviest when his own aunt's criticism burrowed deep within him. And Heard Within, Elias Spun explores how those internalized pressures and lies can destroy one's judgment, leads to monstrous consequences. From the very beginning, Mr. Van manifests as a figure who seems to have played a role in the downfall of Raymond's father, now extending his control over Raymond himself. As a wealthy architect, he wields the power to manipulate events, including the burning of the house, while much of what Mr. Thomas says remains scripted and controlled by him. The house itself appears purposely designed to drive anyone who coexists in it to madness, and the fact that he gifts the parents clothing directly inspired by household furniture serves as a key indication of his ultimate goal to dehumanize them. Mr. Van never truly intended to help this family. Instead, he created an elaborate experiment at the expense of others, with his primary objective being complete control over their lives, never truly seeing them as people. The reasons I believe this because, similar to his aunt and uncles when they were in their home, Mr. Van treats the family as inferior due to their social class. This is a common occurrence throughout history between the interactions between the rich and the poor, and this dynamic is further amplified with a more powerful, wealthier entity like Mr. Van is involved. But there's one thing: Mabel was able to see through the cracks in Mr. Van's facade. She wasn't captivated by the promise of an elite lifestyle, unlike her parents, who had been conditioned to accept their previous living arrangement. Because of this inherent clarity, she and her sister was not affected by the madness of the house and did not fall victim to its manipulation. Since a Heard Within, Elias Spun, then lost its truth that can't be won. The story of Then Lost Its Truth That Can't Be Won follows an anthropomorphic rat referred to as the developer, who is struggling to renovate a house in order to sell at a higher price. The house is already located in a lower end neighborhood, but that's something we'll circle back later on in this video again. We're first introduced to the developer when he's on the phone with one of his suppliers, explaining that he had to lay off his entire construction team, now bearing the full burden of single-handedly finishing the renovations. As he makes his routine calls, he brags about an upcoming open house, claiming to his bank agent that he already has 20 cash buyers lined up. As we pan around the house, it's clear that the interior at least looks like high quality and modern, with furniture and the design standing out starkly compared to the surrounding neighborhood. While the developer is working on the house, we notice two insects, small but significant, foreshadowing what's to come. Instead of exterminating them properly, the developer follows them into a crack within the wall as he simply seals it off, ignoring the potential danger it might represent. We again see more of these insects slowly begin to infest the house as the developer finishes his long day as he goes to sleep in the basement. While While he's finishing up the final touches, installing appliances, laying out the house, he sent the finished result to his lover, going on about how he saved around $3,000 on renovating the house while he looks at new registered buyers online. As he's talking to his sweetheart, it is apparent that their time together on the phone is limited, so he hangs up. For reasons that might be random from right now, look how he's dipping his chocolate bar into his wine. Camera zooms out to a cabinet where the developer noticed a swarming noise, revealed an infestation of fur beetles. These bugs are described to be persistent, destructive insects who target fabric and carpet, stating to need immediate attention before the problem gets worse. The developer struggles to handle the infestation, seemingly without a plan, and the film fast forwards to the open house where he awkwardly asks for a prayer from his sweetheart, who seamlessly is unavailable. In preparation for the open house, we see how he received the wrong food for his guests, adding to the chaos of the event. As the guests tour the house, they are unimpressed with the quality of the building, noticing glaring problems with the design, size, and infrastructure, despite the developer's attempt to present the house as high quality, promising a lavish lifestyle that the guest remains underwhelmed. As he tries so hard to win over the guests, he plays funk music in an attempt to appear more elegant. Quite unimpressed, his guest starts to leave, few by few, making way for the arrival of two new guests, a couple with unusual, peculiar body types, to say the least. The elderly man opening statement phrased how much he loves what the developer has done with the house, asking detailed questions about the quality of the fabric used and the type of materials for the installation. This mysterious odd couple continues to tour the house, becoming increasingly impressed. By the end, they decide to spend the night telling the developer how much they love and are intrigued and interested in purchasing the house. This is where the story begins to show how the couple starts to freeload at the house, leading to the tension building and spilling over. It's important to know how the developer is lying about securing proper buyers to his bank agent while simultaneously boasting about his expertise and his accomplishment. The developer begins to panic, realizing the couple has no real intentions of buying the house. He calls his partner, ranting to him, only to be told off. He instructed him he'll never call him again or call him sweetheart ever again. This is also where we see a surreal dance sequence featuring infesting insects, adding to the chaos and unsettling layers to the scene. In a failed attempt to call the police to forcibly remove the couple, the developer discovers that his partner already sent the officers to his house, not to help him, but to prevent him from furthering contacting him. Now, that last part might have you stumped. If you was paying attention, yes, the police were called because it was revealed that the partner the developer was speaking to, the one he referred to as his sweetheart, was actually a man, his dentist, Dr. Jeffrey. The police was responding to a message from him explaining that the developer has repeatedly crossed inappropriate boundaries as a patient, and that any further contact will result him in court. Up until this point, the developer has been lying to himself, convincing himself that the dentist and him was in some sort of romantic relationship, which made him delusional and invasive unto someone else's privacy. And it gets worse. After being told by his quote-unquote sweetheart, the couple's family arrives at the house. The couple claimed that their family actually lived here before he even stepped foot. This pushes the developer over the edge, which causes him to have an accident that leads him to the hospital. He is then picked up by the couple and returned to the house, where it's revealed that the couple and their family are in fact the same insects he tried to get rid of before. As the story concludes, the film ends with a sequence of slow-moving scenes highlighting just how disgusting, revolting the house has become, infected with these insect-like rats crawling around in this filth, as the developer is shown being more uncivilized and more animal-like, indulging in the disgust depravities within the house. In this moment, he lost everything that made him civilized, consumed by his own nature. He felt this story highlights the problematic nature of lying and not being authentic to your true self, maintaining a facade. The developer cuts corners to create the illusion of a lavish lifestyle, using a subpar house to impress potential buyers, yet his lies ultimately backfire. His inability to confront the truth that he isn't qualified for such a project leads him to neglect the insect infestation. Instead of addressing the problem properly, he sealed the cracks, ignored it, and became an overall bigger threat, which eventually came back to haunt him. He lied about the state of his project to his banker, even convinced himself that he was in a mutual romantic relationship with his dentist. Perhaps the most ironic part of the story is that he's a rat trying to sell the image of high quality life. As we all know, just like insects, rats are also associated with dirtiness and the feeling of disgust. He attempts to appear elegant and sophisticated in every step, from the junk food mockery of fancy dining to playing funk music to eating chocolate bars dipped in wine in an earlier scene, to convince himself of the lifestyle he believes he was a part of. This story is the inverse of A Heard Within and Lies Spun. Raymond, tired of being poor, was giving a false hope of appearing wealthy, which negatively affected him and his family. In contrast, the developer tries to pass off a low-quality product as luxury to people from a world he does not belong in. Ultimately, his lies unravel and he is forced back into his natural state, overtaken by the insects he tried so desperately to keep out. Remember, when A Heard Within and Lies Spun, then lost is truth that can't be won. So listen again. In a post-apocalyptic world ravaged by high floods, run by anthropomorphic cats, we meet Rosa, who, like our last protagonist, is put in the same situation to renovate the hotel with the goal of making one successful. Managing the hotel, trying to keep it stable in condition. As she walks through the rough construction of the hotel, she attempts to collect the monthly rent from her tenants, Elias, a fisherman, and Jen, a walking free spirit. But her effort seems to have no effect. Elias and Jen only pays in fish and crystals, never actual money. Jen informs Rosa of the arrival of her friend who is actually staying at the hotel, much to Rosa's dismay, as she must now worry about another tenant who doesn't pay rent. Despite the unfixable, crippled state of the house, ravaged by the massive floods, Rosa already shows genuine love and care for the building, with the flood being the main reason why most of the tenants move out. As Jen's friends arrive and introducing himself as Cosmo, another free-spirited cat who just needs a place to crash until the fog settles, willingly to barter his handyman skills in exchange for being allowed to set up tent on the property line. With this, Cosmos is easily welcomed in by Rosa, happy to have some real help with the restoration of the house. He offers to do some light carpentry tomorrow, with the day ending with a party, dancing, and wine, with everyone including Rosa actually enjoying themselves. Rosa then wakes up with a hangover, hearing the construction of Cosmos repurposing the upstairs floorboards in an attempt to help Elias build a boat, which angers Rosa and prompts Cosmos to leave. As Jen tries to understand what's happening, she demands that Elias return her floorboards, as Elias explained that Cosmos was only trying to help him, which leaves Rosa confused. She asks with what, and Elias responds that he's trying to leave the house because of the ongoing flood, which he claims that the flood will only get higher, reaching into floors of the house. This deeply upsets Rosa, revealing just how much sentimental value the house holds in her heart, and her hope of restoring it back to its glory days before the floods. Elias pleads that Rosa will one day leave the house too, and doesn't understand why she has this burdened fixation on fixing the house. The conversation ends with Rosa telling off Elias, saying that he can leave wherever he wants. She claims she doesn't need him or Jen, and insists that when she restores the house on her own, she'll have better guests who are actually paying cash. The following day begins with Elias setting off to sea on a boat that Cosmos helped him make, leaving Rosa feeling disheartened that he didn't say goodbye, as she had assumed he would never actually leave. Rosa goes into an anger-fueled rant about how there's nothing out there, to which Cosmo responds, for those who decide not to find it, there can be nothing, meaning that people can only receive help or change their situation if they allow themselves to consider other options. Cosmos revealed that he installed a lever in the house, knowing that one day Rosa will use it. As Rosa goes back into the house, she noticed a note that Elias left behind saying his actual goodbyes, leaving her with her presents, a couple of sketches he'd drawn, not knowing that he was an artist. Jen then walks in, offering lunch as their final meal together before she set off sailing with Cosmos. As Rosa pleads with Jen, asking why she's even leaving and where she's even going to go without a plan, Jen explains that it's time to move on and pursue something new. When Rosa responds that she wants to focus on fixing the house to create good memories, the conversation comes to a peaceful resolution. It is revealed that Cosmos is only there to help Rosa move on. As Jen releases the fog into the house, she tells Rosa not to be afraid. The fog puts Rosa into a surreal trance. Upon waking up, she sees the property is further flooded, noticing that Cosmos and Jen are already sailing away. She cries, wanting to join them, until she realized that the lever that Cosmos installed was a way for the house to turn into a boat. As the house transformed into a ship, allowing her to sail off, catching up with Elias and Jen, the fog finally clears as the group venture out into the open sea. Listen Again and Seek the Sun explores the theme of Rosa struggling to let go of her past, highlighting her desire to leave behind familiarity and embrace the unknown in pursuit of the possibility of having a better life. She convinced herself, much like in A Heard Within a Lie is Spun, that she can somehow save the house within the literal apocalypse. That false hope blinded her reality of the situation and the truth on how dire things really are was lost. Her friends being concerned and supporting it served as guidance, encouraging her to stop holding on to the past and seek the sun, to look forward and embrace the unknown and pursue the possibility of a better future. And heard within, a lie is spun, then lost his truth that can't be won, so listen again and seek the sun. This anthology film succeeds in creating an interconnected collection of stories that continue to build off of each other across different time periods, using contrasting storytelling styles that ripples across the narrative to deliver a satisfying overall experience. It explores the physiological journey a person can go through and how negative influence or self-deception can warp them into someone unrecognizable. Yet if you stay true to yourself, understand your situation, and keep moving forward, things can potentially get better. Even though it's not confirmed, after all, there are chances worth taking and risks worth fighting for. I'm your host, Quin. Happy Halloween, and most importantly of all, we do a little reviewing around here. Peace out.